What would you do if you witnessed your wife and child being brutally murdered, yet the perpetrator calmly walked free due to a legal loophole? That is Clyde Shelton's nightmare. 10 years later, everyone involved in the case begins to pay the price with the most gruesome deaths. But the crazy thing is, Clyde has been in prison since the slaughter began. He is not just killing. He is toying with and bringing down the entire judicial system from within solitary confinement. A breathtaking battle of wits where the line between justice and revenge is blurred. The movie begins with Shelton enjoying moments with his family. When the doorbell rings, Shelton opens it and is suddenly overpowered by two strangers, Darby and Ames. Immediately after, Shelton and his wife are bound hand and foot by them. Darby injures both the husband and wife with a knife. He intends to commit a depraved act against Shelton's wife. Just then, Shelton's young daughter walks into the room. Upon seeing the little girl, Darby decides to shift his target to harming the child. The result is that Shelton loses both his wife and his beloved daughter. Some time passes, and we see the parties involved handling the murder case of the Shelton family. Nick Rice is the chief prosecutor leading the case, a man obsessed with his conviction rate and always seeking to steer cases in a direction beneficial to his track record. Nick explains to Shelton that due to insufficient evidence and legal loopholes, he cannot convict both murderers. Therefore, Nick makes a deal with Reynolds, Darby's lawyer, for Darby to testify against his accomplice Ames, sending him to death row, while Darby only has to serve 3 years in prison. Shelton, who witnessed Darby harming his child with his own eyes, cannot stomach this arrangement. The trial opens, and the deal between Nick and Darby's lawyer is executed. Nick feels extremely uneasy when Darby speaks to him in a mocking tone about successfully evading the law, while Shelton is stunned because the perpetrator Darby has been granted leniency. 10 years later, the day of Ames's execution has arrived. At the same time, Nick's wife and daughter are attending a concert. Nick arrives to witness Ames's execution with his female colleague Sarah. In his final words before dying, Ames insists that he is not the one who killed Shelton's wife and child. Then, the execution process begins, but instead of passing away peacefully, Ames is brutally tortured to death. All the witnesses are horrified by this event. The reason is that the device was tampered with, but the culprit remains a mystery. Written on the machine's chemical canister is the phrase Darby once uttered when murdering Shelton's family and in court: "You can't fight fate." Nick and the police team set out to corner Darby. While Darby is using cocaine at his home, an anonymous caller informs him that the police are coming to arrest him. Darby hastily flees the house and fires repeatedly at the police force. The stranger calls back and gives instructions to Darby. He tells Darby to throw away the gun after wiping off the fingerprints and head towards a police car. He knocked the police officer unconscious before Darby got there. Darby takes the officer's gun and forces him to drive away with threats. They move to a desolate area. The truth is, that police officer is Shelton in disguise. Darby attempts to shoot Shelton, but the gun has been tainted with a toxin. This type of poison paralyzes Darby's body, but maintains the sensation of extreme pain. Shelton imprisons Darby in a warehouse and ties him to a table. Throughout the night, he maintains Darby's consciousness and sensation of pain using various pharmaceuticals. Next, he places a photo of his wife and child in front of Darby so that it is the last image he sees. Then he proceeds to dismember Darby's body. Shelton releases the police officer whom he took as a hostage and leaves the scene. Detective Dunnigan finds Darby's body chopped into 25 pieces. Nick and Sarah examine the scene. It is a warehouse registered in Shelton's name, so they suspect Shelton. Furthermore, Shelton was an inventor in the past, which explains the ability to create the devices that caused Darby's death. Therefore, they go to Shelton's residence to arrest him. Shelton accepts surrender without any resistance. The next day, a package containing a DVD is sent to Nick's daughter, supposedly recording her performance. The girl invites her mother to watch with her, but the mother is not paying attention, so the girl starts watching alone. However, the content of the video is the scene of Darby being murdered, sent by Shelton himself. Nick goes in to meet Shelton to conduct an interrogation. Before starting, he shares with Shelton that he also has a daughter, so he understands Shelton's pain and congratulates him. Over the past years, Shelton has studied and thoroughly understood legal rules. By refusing a lawyer and pointing out the loopholes of the law, he asserts to Nick that Nick cannot prove his guilt in court. Shelton says that in one instance, he is willing to make a deal with Nick and plead guilty to murder. They must exchange it for a high-end mattress advertised on TV for him in prison. Nick replies that prison conditions are not within his jurisdiction and walks away, rejecting Shelton's request. Chief Prosecutor Jonas thinks he should have agreed, but Nick believes Shelton is toying with them. Just then, Nick's wife calls to report that they received the video of Darby being killed, which terrified them. Jonas orders Nick to accept the deal so Shelton can have the mattress in prison. During the investigation, Sarah does not find any data on Shelton in the years since his family passed away. Shelton has transferred all assets to a company in Panama, which does not share information with U.S. authorities. Nick believes Shelton has a reason to hide assets, and they are compelled to find out why. At the hearing, Nick requests to deny bail for Shelton due to flight risk, although there is no direct evidence incriminating him yet. Shelton defends himself, arguing that the court should allow him to post bail. Nick objects, but the female judge approves Shelton's request in accordance with the law. Immediately, Shelton criticizes the legal precedents in the judge's decision, reminding her of the Darby and Ames case and how easily they let criminals loose with simple rules. The judge gets angry and declares Shelton arrested for contempt of court. Nick visits Shelton. Shelton says he keeps his promise to Nick and confesses to killing Darby and Ames. After obtaining the confession, Nick intends to leave. Shelton says he wants to make another deal, and with this new bargain, he wants a steak meal from a specific restaurant and an iPod to listen to music. Nick says he has nothing left to negotiate because Shelton has already pleaded guilty to murder. Shelton retorts, "What about the life of Reynolds, Darby's lawyer?" Nick does not answer and walks out. They discover that Reynolds has been missing for 3 days. Shelton asserts that Reynolds is still alive and will provide his address if they deliver the steak at 1 p.m. They prepare the food but are 8 minutes late. Shelton blames them for arriving late, but gives them Reynolds' location coordinates anyway. They rush to Reynolds' location by helicopter. Meanwhile, Shelton invites his cellmate to eat with him. Nick and the police arrive too late, and Reynolds is dead. Shelton secretly keeps a leftover bone fragment from the steak and suddenly murders his cellmate with that bone fragment. Nick explains to Detective Dunnigan that Reynolds' oxygen tank was set so that if Shelton's food arrived on time, he would have lived. Dunnigan thinks that if Shelton wants to play games with them, they will respond in kind. Shelton is transferred to solitary confinement. Nick goes to meet him. Shelton argues that Reynolds deserved to die for compromising to save Darby, but blames that death on Nick because Nick did not fulfill the agreement on time, and warns Nick to adhere to the bargains. Then Nick gives Shelton the bracelet that Shelton's daughter once made for her dad, and says that his wife and child would not be happy with his actions. Sarah cannot access Shelton's asset records in the usual way, but she wants to circumvent the law with the help of a friend. Jonas has found a government employee who used to work with Shelton. This man reveals that Shelton used to work for the CIA, specializing in designing remote assassination methods abroad that no one else could do. He describes Shelton as a strategic genius who plans every step and will kill anyone involved in his case, and Nick and his colleagues cannot stop him. Nick is worried and tells Sarah to leave the city for a few days with her boyfriend Chester, while also assigning guards for his family. Nick and Jonas go to meet Judge Birch to request that she apply stricter restrictions on Shelton's rights. The judge explains that Shelton is already in solitary confinement, and by law she cannot keep him there for more than a week. The judge agrees to maintain strict restrictions on Shelton for a while longer. Just then, the judge's phone rings. As soon as she answers, the phone explodes right next to her head.
Hello?
Nick returns to meet Shelton. Shelton explains that his actions are not merely revenge, but to change the legal system. He also accuses Nick of compromising with murderers to maintain his conviction record. He says there are people on the outside helping him in ways Nick cannot understand. Nick fears Shelton will kill his family. Shelton issues a new demand. He must be released and all charges dropped before 6 a.m., or else he will kill everyone. 6 a.m. passes with no incidents. They think the danger has temporarily passed, so they decide to go home to rest. Nick asks Sarah when she will introduce her boyfriend Chester to him. Sarah says he will know him soon. Sarah gets in the car, but as she starts the engine, a series of cars explode, and Sarah is killed along with Nick's other assistants. Through investigation, they discover that the cars were destroyed by a strange type of bomb, but there was no bomb in Nick's car. The mayor is extremely furious and reprimands both Nick and Jonas. Nick pledges not to let anyone else die. Nick takes his wife and daughter to another city for a while to seek refuge. Nick returns home and sees a framed photo of Nick and Darby shaking hands after the trial. Together with Dunnigan, Nick arranges to meet Shelton. Nick rushes in to attack Shelton and blames him for killing 6 innocent lives. Then he explains that if he hadn't made the deal with Darby, they could have lost the case and both Darby and Ames would be free. Shelton disagrees. Nick demands he stop, but Shelton replies that he is just getting started and wants to begin an all-out war. He declares he wants to bring the entire judicial system crashing down on their heads. Jonas and Nick are talking together. Jonas wonders if they themselves deserve to be punished for what happened. A moment later, Nick admits he blames himself because instead of trying to change the judicial system, he became part of that machinery. They prepare to attend a press conference. Suddenly, someone disables the electrical system of their car with a mechanical weapon, then uses a robot equipped with a machine gun to fire at the car Jonas is sitting in and kills him. The mayor blames Nick for Jonas's death. Nick decides to resign, but the mayor refuses. He appoints Nick to replace Jonas as chief prosecutor. Nick accesses Sarah's personal computer and guesses the password is Chester, her boyfriend's name. Thanks to that, he finds Shelton's financial information. Nick cross-references the data with industrial properties sold in the last 10 years to find Shelton's lair. Nick finds a location near the prison and, disregarding regulations on trespassing, he and Dunnigan break into it. They discover that Shelton has dug a tunnel connecting to the prison and stored all the equipment for his plans there. Then, they intend to go to Shelton's solitary confinement cell through the tunnel to catch him, but they realize Shelton is not there. Shelton is entering the city administration building with the uniform and ID card of a janitor. Nick realizes that Shelton has hacked all the prison cameras and has control over them from within the tunnel. Then, Nick sees evidence that helps him realize Shelton's true target. They rush to City Hall, but decide not to use the special task force so Shelton won't detect them. The mayor plans to hold a closed meeting with high-ranking officials. Shelton plants a bomb in the building and leaves. Nick and Dunnigan enter the building with a bomb disposal expert. They find Shelton's bag, and after opening it, they notice the bomb will be activated by a mobile phone. Nick does not allow the mayor to be notified because if they knew and evacuated, Shelton would detonate the bomb immediately, so he devises another plan. Shelton returns to the tunnel and is spotted by the police. Shelton returns to the solitary confinement cell, but Nick is already there waiting. Nick asks Shelton to stop. Shelton replies that he wants to make a new deal, but Nick responds that he will not compromise with any murderers anymore. He accepts Shelton's words about the weakness of the system, but Shelton says that not everyone understands yet, and he has to carry out the final task. Then he calls the phone connected to the bomb. At this point, we discover that Nick has secretly placed the bomb under Shelton's bed. Nick and Dunnigan close the cell door and run as fast as they can. The bomb explodes, and Shelton perishes in the sea of fire. The story ends here. Goodbye and see you again.